Located half an hour southeast of Hobart is a small town known as Copping. Driving through, you'd be forgiven for thinking that it's just another dot on the map. But drop into the local colonial and convict collection and you will discover a rich history of Tasmania and the local area like you never imagined. Local George Whitehouse volunteers at the museum to share his extensive knowledge of the place. George can be found most days showing tourists around, as well as providing detailed facts and stories about everything in the museum. I spoke to George about the history and the importance of the museum in today's world. He told me it all started with the local character Jack Smith.
That's a photograph of Jack Smith in middle age, and above him is his garage, as it was. Before it became a museum. That garage was built in 1953. And the little cottage next door where Mr. and Mrs. Smith and the two daughters resided was built the following year. Jack Smith moved from Bream Creek, from a little farm at Bream Creek, into Coppington. And in front of the museum is Jack Smith's Jupiter, which he largely rebuilt from this car down below, that red one below his photograph. And over there, again to the right, you see the car. And Mr. Smith closed the garage in 1967, which was the year of the bushfires in Tasmania, Black Tuesday. And he went off to work up in the Highlands at Tarraleah, the Hydroelectric Commission, as a maintenance mechanic. And it was while he was up there that he more or less decided that he'd never reopen his garage. He hit upon the idea that he'd, if you like, well, gather up a collection, and upon retirement he'd open his garage as a museum, and that's exactly what happened. In 1975, the former garage was opened as the Copping Colonial and Convict Museum, or collection, and that's how the museum came into being. And Mr. Smith was quite a character and very entertaining, and when the people paid their dollar and came into the museum, he was able to tell them about every item in here. Not only was he able to tell them about the items, he was able to sometimes demonstrate. In other words, pick up a broad axe and show the visitors how they squared a beam. Yeah, very practical, hands-on man he was.
Mr. Smith sold the museum in 1980 to the Burden family. They extended the building and added more and more local treasures to the museum. Since then, the museum has been sold and resold numerous times, with different owners trying different things to get people through the door. At the moment, the museum is part of a cafe which specialises in local food and beverages aimed at tourists on their way to Port Arthur. However, George explained to me that the museum is still a very important part of the local community.
There are quite a few items in here that hearken to this particular district and have been collected from this particular area. And local people who come in here, such as your father and your Uncle David and your grandfather, they can relate to these items, particularly the agricultural items.
The Copping Colonial and Convict Collection has been a big part of me growing up in the area. The history it holds for me alone is the reason why places like the museum are important to keep alive for future generations to see and experience.